Hello students, thank you for being here. This video will cover the key concepts, but the real in-depth learning takes place during our live meet, where you have the ability to ask questions and participate in deeper discussions. Let's cover the highlights of Lesson 1.1 Build-In. Please make sure you go to your weekly slides and open up the notes that you see here on the screen. First and foremost, I want you to make sure that you toggle from print to digital because we are in a digital learning environment. So we're going to start here with this first warm-up. It says, copy this figure using only the pen tool. Now we're going to find out pretty quickly that it's difficult to replicate this image. As you can see, I don't have any of the proper tools to make sure that my circles look anything like they should look according to the image that we see on the left. Now, the best way to go about drawing any type of constructions in geometry is to use the proper tools. Now, what I want you to do is, looking at the next section, go ahead and click through each of these tools and just go ahead and test them out on the screen below to see what you see. Now, you should be seeing some of the vocabulary terms that we talked about in that video lesson embedded within the Google form. Now you will see as we continue to move through this unit, we're going to be doing a lot of exploration of constructions and how using those constructions help us define a lot of our basic geometry vocabulary. So you'll see that happening here and again all throughout this entire unit. So they want us to complete each of these steps using those same tools that we just kind of navigated through before. So the first thing we want to do is draw a point and label it as A. So we're going to go ahead and grab that point and place that somewhere on our screen. It automatically labels it using this correct nomenclature for points, which would be capital letters. It'll start with an A, move on to a B, C, move through the alphabet as we continue to add points. Then it's saying they want us to draw a circle centered at point A. So that circle will be called circle A, and it should have the radius the same length as PQ. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to get our compass tool out, and we're going to use that to measure the distance between points P and Q. Just click on both of the points, and here comes the circle, acting like a compass for us. We'll make sure the center of that circle falls directly on point A, and now we have two circles that are congruent to each other, which means they have exactly the same size and shape. And they also have a radius that's exactly the same because I used that compass to make sure it was that way. We're going to go ahead and mark a point on the circle and label it as point B. So again, get that point tool out, and then we can put the point B anywhere we want on the circle. As long as it's on the circle, it will create a radius for us. I think we'll go ahead and draw that segment in a bit. Then it says, I want you to draw another circle centered around point B that goes through point A. So we're going to need to draw another circle. This time, rather than using the compass tool, we're just going to go ahead and use that circle. Click on B to make it the center, and we'll just navigate towards that point A, clicking on A. And then what happens there is that both of these circles end up being congruent to each other because they both are going to share exactly the same radius. And then they happen to be congruent to circle P and circle Q as well because their radius is the same distance. We know that because back in step 2, we made sure that all of these circles have a radius of length PQ. They wanted us to draw a line segment between points A and B, which we just did. Now, what we did is draw a line segment, but really that's the radius of a circle. By definition, a circle is created by many line segments that are all equal distance from the center. Now, I want you to go ahead and take a look at this next activity, and I want you to try this out on your own. See how you do with this. They want you to make a copy of this hexagon. I'm not going to do this in the video. This will be something that we cover in a later topic, but I will tell you as a hint, you should work off of these circles here, thinking about the idea of the radius of each of these circles being exactly the same. And you can start creating a lot more circles with many other radii that are also considered line segments. You can see with this hexagon, I have 6 line segments. Good luck with that creation. Now, at the end of every lesson, we have a lesson summary. So I want you to take a look through this. To recap it really quickly, we looked at a line segment. That is the distance from one point to another, ending at each of those two end points. You could also have a line that extends through the 2 points, or a ray that starts at one of those points and extends through the other end. We're going to name any segments according to the 2 end points. In some cases, we saw segment AB. Another case, we saw segment PQ. You can also switch the order of those letters. Here we're going to use a compass to draw a circle. And remember that the distance from the center to the edge of the circle is called a radius, and it is the same all the way around the circle. Whenever you name a circle, you're going to name it according to the center point. And like I said before, we're going to use constructions all throughout this unit to start discovering components and shapes within geometry, defining them as we go along. Speaking of definition, you'll always see a glossary at the end of your notes. Some important terms to know is circle. Make sure you know the definition of that. And then also a line segment. All right, hopefully you feel this was a pretty good recap of the lesson 1.1 Build It, and you feel comfortable to get started on your homework assignment.